Next topic is gastrulation and formation of the 3 germ layers. Now, what is gastrulation? Gastrulation is the process in which the cells of the inner cell mass, or in other words you can call it as the embryoblast, move in small masses and ultimately form the 3 primary germ layers, that is ectoderm, mesoderm and the endoderm, and this stage is called as gastrula. And the movements of the cell from the embryoblast or the inner cell mass so as to ultimately form the 3 primary germ layers are called as morphogenetic movements. Why? Because they lead to morphogenesis. And what is morphogenesis? Development of body forms. Now, the various steps involved in this process are as follows. Number 1 will be here formation. First step will be formation of the embryonic disc. So, we had initially inner cell mass. That inner cell mass will get reorganized to form a flat disc shaped structure which we refer to as the embryonic disc or the germinal disc. And in that embryonic disc, cells are going to differentiate. Towards the outer will be large columnar cells, and that is called as the epiblast. And towards the inner, facing the blastocele, will be small cuboidal cells or cubical cells, that is referred to as the hypoblast. Now, the second step. Second step is formation of the amniotic cavity and the yolk sac. Now, in this formation of the amniotic cavity, the epiblast here, which was the epiblast here, will move away from the trophoblast. So, epiblast has moved away from the trophoblast. As a result, a cavity has appeared between the trophoblast and the epiblast, and this cavity is called as the amniotic cavity, and it's filled with the amniotic fluid. And the roof of this cavity will be lined by cells derived from the epiblast, and these cells are called as amniogenic cells or amnioblast. Now, the second part, that is formation of the yolk sac. Now, this hypoblast will grow on the sides, both the sides like this, enclose a part of the blastocele to form the primary yolk sac or the primitive yolk sac, as can be seen in this next diagram. So, what we are seeing here is this, the epiblast. This is the amnion that is lining the amniotic cavity. This is the extra embryonic membrane. One we talked about was the chorion. This is another extra embryonic membrane, that is the amnion, which will be lining the amniotic cavity, and within this amniotic cavity the embryo or the fetus is present. So, these are large columnar cells as the epiblast. Now, what did I say? The hypoblast will grow on sides, enclose a part of the blastocele, and will form what we call as the primary yolk sac or the primitive yolk sac. And then second step will be formation of the extra embryonic mesoderm and the extra embryonic coelom. So, we have cells from the hypoblast will divide and in masses, groups, fill up this space between the trophoblast and the lining of the yolk sac, and this forming what we call as extra embryonic mesoderm. because it is outside the embryonic disc. That's why it is called as extraembryonic mesoderm. And then what is going to happen? Cavities, spaces will appear in this extraembryonic mesoderm forming, and these cavities will be referred to as extraembryonic coelom. And then third step, in this next diagram, this is what we are seeing. Now the small cavities that was in the previous diagram will fuse to form a large cavity, which will be the extraembryonic coelom. As a result, the extraembryonic mesoderm will get differentiated into two layers, outer and inner. Outer is referred to as extraembryonic somatic mesoderm, and inner is referred to as extraembryonic splanchnic mesoderm. This is the epiblast, this is the amniotic cavity, and this is the amnion. Now what is going to happen? This is the primitive yolk sac. We have cells from the hypoblast will be now enclosing a part, will divide and cover this area, enclose a part of the primary yolk sac, which is also called as exocoelomic coelom, and as a result form what is referred to as the secondary yolk sac, which will be smaller than the primary yolk sac. And what this is a remnant of the primary yolk sac or the primitive yolk sac. So this is the coelom, that is the extraembryonic coelom. Here on both sides, this what they have shown is a bilaminar disc. This is the embryonic epiblast, this is the hypoblast. So don't these diagrams appear very difficult, but I will be giving you more simplified diagrams for this process. So now next step will be formation of the primitive streak and then formation of the 3 germ layers that will come to this subsequently. First we said, what was the first step? Formation of the embryonic disc. So the cells of the inner cell mass or the embryoblast will get rearranged to form a flat germinal disc or an embryonic disc around 8 days of fertilization. I said now this gets differentiated into outer epiblast of large columnar cells and inner hypoblast of small cubical cells. Second step, which I said, was formation of the amniotic cavity and the yolk sac. Epiblast will move away from the trophoblast, forming a cavity called as the amniotic cavity, and that will be filled with the amniotic fluid. And the roof of this cavity is formed by the amniogenic cells or the amnioblast derived from the epiblast. Now coming to the yolk sac, primary yolk sac. So the hypoblast is pushed down and it's going to form a covering over the blastocele, and that cavity that it is going to enclose is called as the primitive yolk sac or the primary yolk sac, or also as the exocoelomic, because it's outside the embryonic disc, exocoelomic cavity. Third step, formation of the extraembryonic coelom. Cells of the hypoblast, that is the yolk sac cells, because it's going to form the primary yolk sac, and that will divide and give rise to mass of cells, and that's going to fill up the space between the trophoblast and the lining of the yolk sac lining, and that is called as the extraembryonic mesoderm. Extraembryonic because it's going to lie present outside the embryonic disc. Now these cells, that is this extraembryonic mesoderm, will fill the spaces between the trophoblast and the amnion, and the exocoelomic membrane. What is the exocoelomic membrane? Lining of the primitive yolk sac. Then what is going to happen? We had seen just now that large cavities will appear where? In the extra embryonic mesoderm. As a result, is going to split the mesoderm into two layers. Outer will be extra embryonic somatic mesoderm and inner will be extra embryonic splanchnic mesoderm, forming and enclosing which cavity, which is referred to as the extra embryonic coelom. Next step is formation of the secondary yolk sac. We have just now seen that the hypoblast produces additional cells, more cells that will move along the inside of the exocoelomic membrane, that is the lining of the yolk sac, and enclose a new cavity within the primary yolk sac, which was initially the primary yolk sac, or also that is also called as the exocoelomic cavity, and as a result that cavity will become much more smaller, and that is referred to as the secondary yolk sac. And the yolk sac is a source of blood cells and germ cells and also acts as a shock absorber. Next step, now this is the beginning of the gastrulation in a way, that is formation of the primitive streak. So gastrulation will begin with the formation of a primitive streak. And what is a primitive streak? A faint groove, a faint depression on the dorsal surface of the epiblast. And this primitive streak is important because this will establish what will be the head part of the embryo, what will be the tail, and what will be the right and the left sides of it. After the formation of the primitive streak will begin the formation of the primary germ layers. So where this primitive streak is present, that means where this groove is present on the dorsal surface of the epiblast, cells of this epiblast are going to move inwards, and that is called as invagination, and below the primitive streak, and they are going to detach from the epiblast below the primitive streak, multiply and divide, and as a result it is going to displace the hypoblast and form the first germ layer, that is the endoderm. So the first germ layer that is formed is the endoderm, that is going to line the primitive gut. Then other cells which has been dividing, getting detached below the primitive streak from the epiblast will fill up the spaces where between the epiblast and the newly formed endoderm, so as to form the mesoderm. And then whatever cells remain in the epiblast after the formation of the endoderm and the mesoderm will get reorganized, rearranged to form the ectoderm. So what have we seen? That the epiblast, through the process of gastrulation, is the source of all the three germ layers, and the cells in these layers will give rise to all organs, tissues and organs in the embryo. As you recall, we said some of the cells in the inner cell mass functions as pluripotent cells because they give rise to all tissues and organs. So out of the inner cell mass also it is only the epiblast that is the source of the three primary germ layers. So this is a surface view of the embryo, and we have seen that this is a narrow groove which we said we were talking about what is a primitive streak. So this is a narrow groove that will appear near the tail region. So this will be the head part of the embryo, this will be the tail part of the embryo, and when you cut a section of this region, what we see will be, this is the epiblast. So cells from the epiblast will move like this here inwards and form a groove here, which is, we said, is the primitive streak, and this will be a primitive node. Now cells below this primitive streak, so this is the primitive streak, below this primitive streak, cells from the epiblast will detach, divide and form a continuous layer like this. This is the endoderm. So, the first germ layer to be formed is the endoderm. Cells from the epiblast will continue multiplying, getting detached from below the primitive streak and fill up the space between the newly formed endoderm and the epiblast, and these are going to form the mesoderm. And rest of the cells that remain after the formation of the endoderm and the mesoderm is referred to as the ectoderm. So, this is how the primary three germ layers will be formed in an embryo. So, you don't have to draw this diagram, this is just for your explanation part, but draw this diagram if you are asked about gastrulation. If you want to show is the primitive streak, because this is the diagram where we show all the three layers. This is so label this as the primitive streak, this as the ectoderm, this as the mesoderm and this as the endoderm. Now, formation of the fetal membranes. What are the fetal membranes present in an embryo? First is the chorion, which we said just before also. Outermost fetal membrane, how it is formed? By the surface layers of the trophoblast, and so outer layer will be made up of the trophoblast and below will be the extra embryonic mesoderm, and this is going to form the villi and the fetal part of the placenta. Next fetal membrane is the amnion. So, it is lining the amniotic cavity. So, the inner fetal membrane that lies around the embryo or the fetus. So, amnion will be derived from the extra embryonic somatic mesoderm on the outer side and extra embryonic ectoderm or the trophoblast on the inner side, and it encloses an amniotic cavity which will be filled with amniotic fluid. So, what is the function of the amniotic fluid? It acts as a shock absorber because it provides a watery environment to the embryo. As a result, regulates pressure and temperature and prevents desiccation, that is drying of the embryo. Third fetal membrane is the yolk sac. It's a small sac-like structure that gets attached ventrally to the developing embryo by a yolk stalk and is the source of the blood cells and the germ cells during the early gestation period. Third is the allantois, that is a small sac-like structure which develops from the embryonic hind gut close to the yolk sac. Later it forms is a fibrous cord-like structure which we refer to as the fetal urachus, and that connects to the fetal urinary bladder to the yolk sac, and that is going to remove the nitrogenous waste from the fetus. Later this yolk sac will degenerate in the later part of the gestation period, and then ultimately it will become both the allantois and yolk sac become parts of the umbilical cord. So, this is just diagram, no need to draw these diagrams, just to show you how the fetus is present and the fetal membranes around it. So, in this first diagram, what you have is the umbilical cord connecting to the fetus. This is the yolk sac attached to the umbilical cord. This is the chorionic villi. Initially it starts here, then it is surrounding. Chorionic villi will be given off from all the sides and is going to absorb nourishment from the mother's body, and this will be the amniotic cavity in which the embryo is lying. This will be the amnion lining the amniotic cavity. Outside this cavity is the exocoelomic cavity or the extra embryonic coelom, exocoelom, and this is the this is the uterus. This will be the cervix, where during pregnancy, due to high levels of progesterone, a thick plug of mucus will be present. Second they are showing is the formation of the yolk sac. This is the allantois duct that will form the urachus that is connected to the fetal urinary bladder and will be carrying nitrogenous waste. Later both these allantois and the yolk sac will become part of the umbilical cord. So, this is the amnion which is lining the amniotic cavity, exocoelom, and this is the chorion that is giving off this chorionic villi from all the sides. Next, fetus within the half amnion, chorion and the uterus. So, here it is without the yolk sac because later part of the gestation period it degenerates and becomes part of the umbilical cord. So, this is the villi here. This is the, now this amniotic cavity has increased in size to accommodate the growing fetus. So, it becomes almost fused with the chorion here. So, that is why you have chorion and the amnion here. This is the fetus uterine cavity and this is the cervical canal. So, for this fetal membranes, there is no diagram as such. This is just for your explanation. Now, sometimes you get what is the fate of the 3 germ layers, what are the 3 germ layers, which organs and tissues they are going to produce. So, you have to remember some, for as it is some questions are given related in your question bank related to this. So, just go through it because ectoderm mainly what it is, ecto outside, nervous system you have epidermis, what is present on the epidermis, skin, hair, nails, glands of skin, then you have the enamel of teeth, then you have the salivary glands because the oral cavity is lined by the ectoderm, you have the anal region that's lined, lower part is lined by the ectoderm, then you have is related to eyes, your conjunctiva, cornea, lens, muscles of the iris, vitreous humor, retina, these are all made from ectoderm. Then coming to the ear, the external ear, tympanic membrane, membranous labyrinth, now the glands, you have the pituitary glands, pineal, medulla of adrenals, these are all derived from ectoderm. Mammary glands, terminal part of the male urethra. So, you do not have to remember all, but you should be knowing a few examples of each layer. Next you have is the derivatives of the mesoderm, and meso will be middle. So, what is present in the middle? Muscles and skeleton, except for the iris because we seen these are derived from the ectoderm. You have the connective tissue, dentine of the teeth, heart, blood vessels, lymphatic system, all derived from the mesoderm. Now, kidney, spleen, ureter, coelomic epithelium, dura mater, that is the outermost tough covering of the brain, microglia, that is present in the nervous system, sclera, choroid, ciliary body, cortex, adrenal cortex, reproductive system except from the prostate, and then the notochord. So, these are all derived from the mesoderm. Then from the endoderm, that is the lining of the gut or the alimentary canal. So, you have the epithelium of the mouth, tongue, tonsils, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestines, eustachian tube, middle ear, inner layer of the tympanic membrane. Then you have the epithelium of the larynx, trachea, bronchi and lungs, gallbladder, liver, pancreas. So, these are all associated with the alimentary canal. Prostate, corpus, glands, and thyroid, parathyroid and thymus. So, that was all about the gastrulation. So, I will be giving handwritten note related to this topic because I find you have difficulty in copying from the video, and more simplified diagrams than what is given in this video. It is just for the explanation part. That's all. Any doubts you have, please text me. Thank you and God bless you all.